Hello everyone. In this video, I'll be teaching you how to play the verse section for the song Chasing Cars by Snow Patrol. It's a very simple guitar part and it should be very easy for you to learn. So to begin, I'll just point out the strings that will be played during this section. It's basically alternating between two strings. So one string will be the G string, which is, if you count from the bottom, is the third string from the bottom and the fourth string from the top. And the second string we'll be using is the high E string, which is the first string from the bottom. So that's mostly the two strings we'll be using, and then towards the end we'll then incorporate the D string, which is the third string from the top and fourth string from the bottom. But to begin, we'll only focus on the G and the high E string. So to begin, we'll then place our middle finger on the second fret of that G string, which should sound like this, which is an A note that we're playing. And we're basically going to alternate between this string and then the open high E string at the bottom. So just like so. That's the basic pattern. And then an important thing for you is that we're only going to use our two fingers in our right hand or left hand, depending if you're a left hand player. So our thumb will be playing the G string only, whereas our first finger will be playing the high E string at the bottom. So there's no need for you to swap, fingers or use one finger at a time. It's a much more efficient way of playing alternating strings. And then after that, we're then going to use our first finger on the same G string, but instead of the second fret like we did in the beginning, we're using our first finger and playing the first fret. So it should sound like that. And we're still going to alternate with the high E string. So we're not changing that high E string sound, we're only changing the note on the G string from second fret to first fret now. And we're just going to alternate. And then the third part to this is, instead of the G string, we are then going to use the open D string. Remember, it's the third string from the top and the fourth string from the bottom. It should sound like that. And there's no need for you to place any fingers from your left hand onto the fretboard because it's an open string. And we're simply going to do the same thing. We're going to alternate with the high E string at the bottom, like so. Just like that. And then after we do that for a while, we then go back to the beginning section, which was middle finger on the second fret on the G string, and we're just alternating, just like we did in the beginning. And then it just repeats for the whole verse. Now, an important thing to remember with this verse section, with this guitar part, is the number of times we play these notes before we decide to change to this note, and then before we decide to change to that note. It's very important to remember how long to play the notes, how many notes to play before we change, because we need to keep in time with the song and the lyrics for any singers. So to remember, if you remember from last week's video, the chord strumming pattern, an important number was mentioned, which was 16. 16 was the magic number for last week's video chord strumming pattern. And so for this one, even though it's not chords, 16 is still the magic number. So to remember, we're basically from the beginning, we just play 16 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And after 16, that is when we change to our first fret finger on the G string, using our first fingers on first fret, and then we do that for 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. until after we reach 16, then we change to the D string open, and then alternating with the high E string for 16 as well. And then after we do that same thing, after 16 times, we then go back to the beginning for another 16 times. Now, for some people, it might be a bit difficult to keep on counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A trick to this is, if you don't want to count 16, just count every time you play a string with your thumb. You should only be playing that 8 times. So half of 16, which is 8. So you'll be playing with your your thumb on the string 8 times, and then 8 times with your first finger. But I find personally that it's easier to count using your thumb because it's on the beat and it's the first note of every section. So you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then change 1, 2, etc. So you find that it's easier to base the counting 8 times using when playing the string using a thumb, rather than 16 times altogether, alternating between 2 strings. So that's basically it. And so I'll just play a slow version for everyone to play along, and then after this I'll then play it at the normal speed that the song should be played. So if you like to play with me, so after 4 we'll then begin. 1, 2, 3, 4.